So I'm continuing my reading now, and what this series is I'm reading the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around just a little bit. I have already read the beginning part of the Earth's history, the Book of Genesis, the Book of Moses, so the Book of Genesis in the Bible, the Book of Moses, and the Book of Abraham in the Pearl of Great Price, as well as about half of the Book of Ether in the Book of Mormon. I have also read the first 15 chapters of Exodus. I am now moving over to the Book of Job, because Job would have lived at some time between between Genesis and Exodus. This is a general time period that he lived, so we are putting his story here. Let us get into this. The Book of Job, Chapter 1. Job, a just and perfect man, is blessed with great riches. Satan obtains leave from the Lord to tempt and try Job. His property and children are destroyed, and yet he praises and blesses the Lord. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, and 3,000 camels, and 5,000 yoke of oxen, and 5,000 she-asses, and a very great household. So that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East. And his sons went and feasted in their houses every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sacrificed and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, It may be that my sons have sinned, and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. So this is setting up Job as a character. Now, I want to mention here, before I continue, Job, in the book of Job, is not a historical work. It is a literary work. This is, by all indications, an ancient play. This is an epic poem, you might say. Most likely was performed for an audience. Excuse me. And so we get a setup here. This is the prologue. And we have to understand this, or some of these things, some of the details coming up won't make as much sense. But when we understand that this was a play performed in front of an audience, then some of the things that seem a bit out of place begin to make more sense. Now, we have Job, he was an upright man. He eschewed evil, which means he turned away from evil. He avoided it. He had 10 children, 7 sons, 7 daughters, and they had a feast. They would have a rotation. Eat at the first son's house, then the second son's. Each day they'd eat at a different son's house, and the sisters would come with them, and they'd all celebrate. Now, this wasn't done every week. This was, during the holy days, or during a special time each year, they would have this weekly feast. And when the feast was over, Job would go out and make sacrifices, just in case his sons were not quite as good as they should be. I love that about Job. Job said, well, just in case, we're going to do an extra sacrifice here, just to be on the safe side. So let us continue here, verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord, and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect man, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord, and said, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. So this is the part that you got to understand the literary nature. Okay. Oh, I do want to. There is a Joseph Smith translation here, and I forgot to mention. The Joseph Smith translation is an inspired correction or in translation of the Bible done by Joseph Smith to restore portions of the Bible that had been lost over the years. This chapter does have a single, one correction in this chapter, that is in verse 6, where it says, when the sons of God came to present themselves, Joseph Smith has corrected this to say the children of God. So there's that. Just want to mention that. The other thing is, why is Satan in heaven? Why is he there? He was kicked out of heaven in the pre-existence. Why is he back here having a chummy conversation with God? When we understand that this is a play, that this is an epic poem that is performed for an audience, we see this as a dramatic license. This is the author setting up a prologue to set up what's coming next. This is the prologue to set up the main story, which is the main story, as we will see, is Job and his three friends and Elihu and all, and their conversation. That is the main play. This is the prologue. And with a little literary license, the author, whoever it is, we don't know who actually wrote the book, but he is setting it up through this literary license, putting Satan in heaven with God, just to set things up. There is also, in this case, some people think that the term Satan does mean accuser. And some people think that this wasn't the same as Lucifer, who was kicked out of heaven, but this is an angel who is kind of, he's the one that brings charges against men in heaven. I don't personally buy that. I think this was supposed to be Satan. I think the author meant this to be the same person. But it, as I said, was literary license on the author's part to set up, to create this prologue and bring us into the main story. So, verse 12. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. So again, why would God give Satan this power? I do find he says, destroy everything that belongs to him, but don't touch him personally. But why does God give Satan this power? Again, literary license to set up the main point of the story. Continuing, 13. And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job and said, The oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside them. And the Sabaeans fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, The fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, The Chaldeans made out 3 bands, and fell upon the camels, and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men. And they are dead, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Then Job arose, and rent his mantle, and shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground, and worshipped, and said, Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Okay, just a couple of, again, let's go back to this idea of this being a play. We can see in here the stage directions. And there came a messenger unto Job. Okay. Messenger enters stage right. Talks about the Sabaeans. While he was yet speaking, there came also another. Enter stage left. While this guy's still talking, next servant enters stage. And we see the same thing. Next one. And while he was yet speaking, there came also another. And while he was yet speaking, there came also another. We also have this thing. In one day, the Sabaeans come over and take the ox and asses. The Chaldeans come down and take the cattle. A meteor falls from heaven and destroys the sheep. And a tornado swings through and smashes the house of his sons. This is just a little too much to believe unless it is a play and we're reading the stage directions. They had to, as a play, you would have to have it all happen at once in order to get through the prologue and get into the main story. That is what it's setting up. The whole setup of Job is an ancient play, one of the oldest written, one of the oldest pieces of literature in this form, in a poetic play form in existence. So all this stuff is happening, and Job, he says he shaves his head, fell down to the ground, and worshiped. So he is mourning, but he is not turning against God. He keeps his faith. And that is kind of the point of Job. So I will end that one here, and we'll see you in the next one.